So I'm Paul Leake, CEO and co-founder of VerteCore Technologies. But 15 years ago, I was a specialist in the U.S. Army when I had a training accident. And the doctors essentially gave me two choices: an invasive spinal surgery, multi-level fusion, that may or may not work, or live with the pain. Knowing that there's a 74% failure rate across all back surgeries, I took option B and lived with the pain for over 10 years. During that time, I tried literally any and everything I could, short of surgery and short of having to take opioids. Even these three lovely products on the screen. They've got two things in common. One, you can probably guess, they really don't work for the most part, very little efficacy. The other thing they have in common is extremely robust sales. Between the three, over the last 10 years, $1.6 billion worth. Nothing worked, that is, until a friend introduced me to decompression therapy. It worked great. The problem was that neither the VA, my private insurance carrier, would cover the expense, and it required a 3-hour round trip just to find some relief. So we did the next best thing and invented our own solution. The VerteCore lift safely and conveniently decompresses your intervertebral disc from L5 to T5, offering the relief that literally millions of people worldwide are seeking. 100 million Americans and 1.7 billion people deal with back pain almost on a daily basis. And statistically, 8 out of 10 of you will deal with back pain at some point in your lives. The market we're addressing is quite substantial. $3.6 billion in global orthopedics brace sales, and that doesn't include an additional $1.3 billion in over-the-counter brace sales, which also doesn't include those three lovely products we looked at a minute ago. But what's important, does it actually work? So we've got 800 beta units in the field, and we've got reports from some consulting physicians with as high as 85% efficacy rate. So this particular gentleman, his pain management physician contacted us. He'd already had one failed laminectomy, and his next scheduled surgery was going to be a lower spine fusion. Ironically, he was a pharmaceutical executive, and he knew the detrimental effects of having to take the opioids for pain and the long-term use of steroids. So the image on the right is a 15 millimeter paracentral canal herniation. So the gentleman was experiencing incontinence, lower neuropathy, debilitating pain essentially, but he didn't want to have a fusion. The image on the left is the same patient after using our device for right at 2 months. A complete resorption with the exception of about a 3 millimeter bulge, but since it wasn't impinging on a nerve, all the discogenic symptoms were totally gone. So over the last 2 years, we've gotten a lot of great support, and we've gotten a lot of very positive attention. We were named a MedTech Innovator Top 20 company. At the annual AdvaMed conference, we received the Johnson & Johnson Innovation Award. We were named a top 20 company at TMCX through their accelerator program, and while there, AT&T, the telecom giant, took notice of us. And 6 months ago, we signed a collaboration agreement with AT&T that has borne tremendous fruits. We now have the first fully connected mobile ambulatory spinal decompression device, and we're moving towards Class 2 FDA approval right now. We already have Class 1 approval on our flagship device. You may see us on an upcoming episode of Shark Tank. We don't want the money, but the exposure is fantastic. We went to the Accelerate Michigan competition, and not only were we the grand prize winner, but more importantly, we also walked home with the People's Choice Award. So we've assembled a great team that's helped us to get to this point. 68 years combined medical device and healthcare experience, 5 startups, 3 successful exits, 2 not so successful, but you know, you gotta keep throwing the spaghetti against the wall, as they say. And a combined sales of $2.2 billion in medical and direct-to-consumable goods. Also, perhaps more importantly, 5 spinal surgeries, and 2 fusions. So we've got a group here that intimately knows what we're dealing with and knows the goals. So in addition to having a wonderful team, what's got us here, of course, is funding. I resigned from a Fortune 100 company and cashed in my 401k. We raised an additional $800,000 in seed capital, and we received our FDA Class 1 clearance, which has prompted several larger companies to reach out to us about licensing or a co-branding opportunity. So we're here, as most of my esteemed colleagues, looking for money. We're raising a $5 million Series A, which will allow us to be profitable this year in 2020. We've been very diligent with the funding that we had already raised, so we're not carrying any debt load whatsoever. There's no convertible notes to worry about. And we enjoy up to 80% gross margins. So decompression technology for back pain relief. We allow patients to be drug-free, surgery-free, and pain-free. So I know I went through that a little bit quick, so are there any questions from the audience? Okay, well, I'll give you just a couple quick things that we run into frequently. Physicians often ask us, well, you're trying to take money out of my pocket, orthopedic surgeons in particular. That's actually not the case. The reason being there are 1.4 million surgeries of this nature done in the U.S. every year. There's about 30 million surgical candidates. They couldn't possibly get to all of them if they operated 24/7, which is impossible. But here's the thing. There's still that 74% failure rate hanging over the heads of the patients and the physicians. Using our device, the doctors are able to better triage their surgical candidates. So what we aim to do is, if surgery is necessary, we want the patient to have the best spinal profile possible. But for a lot of those patients, just like the gentleman whose MRIs I showed, they won't have to have that progression into spinal surgery. Another thing we hear is, okay, it looks uncomfortable. It's really not, and I've got some demos if you guys want to meet in the breakout room and try on. And you're only wearing it for 20 minutes once or twice a day. That's the same protocol a DRX 9000, which was the hydraulic table, uses, and that amount of time allows a lot of resorption of bulging or herniated disc. It also allows for the nutrient waste exchange, which is so vital for the health of your IVDs, your intervertebral disc, because the only way your discs remain healthy and hydrated is through motion and diffusion through the end plates. When we're no longer teenagers, that vascularity starts to slowly dry up. Our device helps restore that. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'd love to tell you more.